part 2 of What If Female Deku was in Enforcer and in Ruby. As she's walking through the forest, she pulls out the little device that she had taken while she got out of the TIE fighter. As it's a small communicator. I will need to get to a certain place, something with enough power to generate a large signal. Assuming there is life on this planet other than that beasts I've encountered. As we look behind her, as she's still in the red forest, as several Grimm have been sliced to pieces by Izumi, as they had attacked her. For one, what is this place, and what are these creatures? They seem to be black with white masks, with a hinge of red. They come in forms of animals, and they're pretty large, depending on what they are. As she has a little notepad of all of the Grimm she's fought so far. That Chimera Grimm, a few Bear Grimm, a few Wolf Grimm, is what she's come across so far. She has it written down. As she puts on her scroll, which is kind of a device where she can keep information on. As she puts that in her pocket, I will need to tell the Inquisitors and Lord Vader immediately when I return. As she's walking through, as she gets another glimpse of her past, as she remembers going to the Quark Doctor and not having a Quark. Sorry, ma'am, it seems your daughter does not have a Quark, which left Izumi in shock. It's alright, everything will be alright. Come on, Izumi, let's leave. As they would leave the hospital. As then she would shake her head. Why are memories of my past coming back? As she holds her head for a moment. Maybe I should take... As she goes into her pocket and seems a vial of medicine. For Inquisitor Izumi. As she would open the medicine before grabbing a pill. As she would open her helmet, as her green, long hair would flow out of her helmet. As she would swallow the pill. How many do I have left? 5. As she would close it. Before putting it back in her, bag. Well, whatever they used in Star Wars to gather data is what she had typed her information on. As she keeps walking through the red forest, we go to a very, 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 very far outpost of the Empire. As someone's just looking at the scanner. Sir, for a brief moment, I got a distress signal. As the commander in charge, what is it, trooper? It says it's from Inquisitor Izumi. Although it was only for a moment before the signal got cut offline. I cannot identify the location of Inquisitor Izumi from this signal. As the commander would go over there. We managed to get a signal. How far was it? The signal was, as he would show the number of how far it was. That's far in the outer rim. How are we going to get there? I don't know, but maybe we'll need to send a vehicle or a ship to go pick her up. 1, we do not have the exact location. All we know she's somewhere out there in the outer rim. Most of our vessels don't even come back from that area. Wait for a confirmed signal that she sends to us. Then we'll send a destroyer to go pick her up. Yes, sir. As we go back to Izumi, who's been wandering through the forest. As she would leave the edge of the forest before coming to a cliff. As then suddenly she would hear crows. As she would look up and see 3 giant crow Grimm above, as they seem to be coming towards her. I guess this fight isn't over. As she ignites her lightsaber, as they send their feathers at her, as she seemingly swings her lightsaber, blocking all the feathers, deflecting them and cutting them in half. As one would charge right for her, as she would jump and spin as she would cut one of the wings off, as it would just fall down to the chasm. Before another one would seemingly fly away, as that last one would send more feathers at Izumi, as she would use the force and stop it before sending them right back, as it would pierce the crow grim before falling onto the ground. As she would approach the injured crow grim before stepping on its neck, and lean the lightsaber is, let's see if you can speak. Tell me, where am I? As she would apply more force to her foot, squishing the neck of the crow grim, as it tries to claw her with its other wing. That's not broken, as she similarly swings her lightsaber, cutting off the top half of its wing. As it crows out, it seems you're nothing like a mindless beast. As she would raise her lightsaber, as the glow would reflect off her helmet, as she swung down, we would hear a large crow grim noise go through the forest, as several crows and all that would come from the tree line. As she would look down the mountain and see people fighting the crow grim that went elsewhere, and seemingly a scorpion. As she would pull up some binoculars, as she would zoom in, as she would watch Team Ruby as they're fighting with the crow grim, and then would look at Team Juniper, if I remember, fighting with the scorpion. They're not skilled, but they're a skilled bunch of students, I presume. As she would look around, as then she would definitely take an interest at Ruby, as she would zoom in. She has a very large connection with the Force. Interesting. I can sense it from here, as she would put the binoculars away. As she would go up the mountain and decapitate the crow grim. As she's in the air, she sees Izumi, as they would lock eyes before she went back down. As Izumi would just turn around before walking back in the forest. Maybe I should follow them. But first, my priority is to get a message out to the Empire. As she would similarly walk back into the red forest. As when Ruby landed, she would look back up at the cliff. As Yang would ask, "Hey Ruby, what are you looking at? I saw somebody." "There's no one but us out here. Maybe another team?" "No, someone in black armor." "Black armor, you say?" "Yeah, and there was another crow corpse at the top, or crow grim corpse at the top." "Really?" "Well, we're gonna have to tell the teachers about this." As Blake comes over, "Maybe it was just another hunter watching over the exam." As we says, "Of course, after all, they would make sure their students are safe. It's Beacon Academy, after all." "Don't worry about it, Ruby. Let's just head back." As Yang would have her arm around Ruby's neck. "Yeah, you're probably right," as she laughs. But as they're walking away, she looks back at the cliffside, to where she would see Izumi once more. As she blinks, she's gone. "Who are you?" As we go back to Izumi, who's currently in the forest. Again. As she'd be looking at the pad that she had the notes on about the Grim. "I can't send this information out, but this is very useful information." As she would put the pad away before, several Grim would approach her once more in the forest. "Y'all don't know when to give up." As she would just raise her hand, sending all the Grim flying away. "I don't have time to deal with you. I have more important matters to deal with." As she would walk into the forest. Simply disappearing. As we see her, when she does appear, she finds a village. a city. As you take out binoculars, seems like regular people. It's probably not wise to travel around in my gear, especially an unknown planet, but they don't seem any high-tech at all. As she's simply just looking out. Nothing really too high-tech. Nothing I could send a signal out to here either. As she puts her pad away, as she then just presses her helmet as it opens up, revealing her long hair and her face once again. As she takes off her helmet, as she would grab a little device, it looks like I'm going to have to use the cloaking tech that the inventor gave me back on my previous mission. As she would tap her uniform, as it would turn to simple clothing. It looks like I'm just gonna have to go by foot. As she has her lightsaber just still wrapped around her waist, but still has a cloak. Still has like a black cloak. But she's wearing now casual clothing. As she would walk down the hill towards the city, as she would walk by people. As then she would see a shop before she would hear something inside. As she would open the door, as she had found what seemingly is a dead faunus, as she would lean down, and she would analyze, someone that's part beast. What type of people are in this world? As then she would hear sirens coming, as she would quickly lift her hand away from the corpse. I'll need more analyzation. As then she sees, well, a book, because this happened to be a bookstore. As she would grab one, before seemingly walking out, as then the police would arrive as she's walking away. As she would look at the book, dust. What is this dust? As she would then just walk back into the forest because she doesn't trust anyone in the city. As she would get back into her enforcer outfit, as she would open the book. Dust is magic. For instance, there's different types of dust. There's red dust for fire magic. White dust for, I think, snow magic. Or is that blue? And there's all sorts of patterns, dark, light, earth. A whole bunch of dust patterns. So this dust is magic. So that's what their gear was using. As she remembers those symbols appearing, those must have been runes of some sort. Nothing I'm familiar with, anyway. I can speak their language, apparently. They're more towards my native language of my home world. As then she would remember people laughing at her. As then she would move her hand before hitting a tree, as the tree would simply fall over from her strength. As she looks back at the book, as she would flip a page once more, as then there would be a bit of a story. What's this? As then it would show a picture of the Grimm, and then the word Grimm would appear over them. Grimm. Were those the names of the creatures I just slayed? As she would close the book, as she would put it in her bag. I have to keep this for more information. I must retrieve as much intel and give it to the Empire as soon as I return. This planet could be more useful than I thought. We couldn't weaponize this dust into a magnificent weapon for the Empire. Maybe the Empire may find a huge use of it. As she would stand up. But for now, I'm more interested about that girl with the red cloak and silver eyes. as she had gotten a good look at Ruby's face. Now let's see. Force, will you lead me to her? As she would get the trail of, well, the force between Ruby. Now I just need to follow the trail of the force. As she would walk into towards the forest, before she would approach the ruined site after some hours of walking. As she would slide down the mountain before landing on, well, a few bricks. As she would approach the middle, as she would see that the other side is collapsed. As she would just simply run before jumping, easily clearing the gap of the bridge that was destroyed, before landing on the other side of the ruins. Now, that was a pretty easy jump. As she would get onto a hill, and she would see Beacon from several miles away. So that's Beacon. I assume that's what they were talking about when I was listening in. As she smiles, time to check up on that girl. And that is the end of part 2 of What If Female Deku Was an Enforcer in RWBY. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.